Good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome to the first plenary session, which is about the integration agenda, a roadmap to SDGs. We all know that when we are talking about regional integration can play a very crucial role when we are talking about growth and development prospects. And when we are talking about the Bay of Bengal region, then definitely like there are a lot of untapped opportunities and which can help us to attain the SDGs. Of course, there are challenges as well. So we will like to hear about the challenges, the opportunities, and all of the issues from the experience of very honorable and distinguished panelists of ours. So today we have with us 5 very distinguished panelists. We have with us Ms. Van Nguyen, a Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP. Dr. Debapriya Bhattacharya, Distinguished Fellow, CPD. Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, who is the Research Director, Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement. We have Dr. Asif Iqbal Siddiqui, Lead Academic, Curtin University, Australia. And of course, we have with us Mr. Aizaz Ahmed Chaudhry, former Foreign Secretary, Pakistan. Now, I think that we have so many exciting panelists with us. I don't want to bore you with a lot of comments or question or introduction. And for the introduction, maybe I will probably go first to our very own Dr. Debapriya to set the tone. So to you, Dr. Debapriya, I have the question that what challenges that you see when we are talking about having regional integration to foster the SDGs and to attain the SDGs? Where are the untapped opportunities and why or how strong is the geopolitics here? So over to you, Doctor. Yes. So just to interrupt, I want to humbly say that it will be a great pleasure for us and it will be easy for us to manage the time if we can spend like 8 or 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Professor Bidisha. Let me first start by thanking the organizers for inviting me to this session. It's a unique opportunity to meet friends across the region over here. So on behalf of the the citizens of Dhaka, I would like to welcome those friends who have traveled far and wide to come to Dhaka and join this conference. So, and I can see it has already got a very good start. Thank you very much, Bidisha, for that question. Since the session is about integration and SDG, I just wanted to mention that we had, as everybody would agree, that we are meeting at a very critical time. The critical time, that is the challenge to start with, because we have an interrupted post-COVID recovery. We are approaching a global recession, and we do have a number of violent incidents going around the world, including in Ukraine. Along with that, we see the lots of projections about the imminent two crises. One is the fuel crisis, energy crisis, and the other is the food insecurity. All these things are all there. The question is that in order to address these issues, the new issues, and also some of them are inherited structural issues, what can be done? So the world is really looking for new processes, new initiatives, new innovations in this regard. So the Bay of Bengal Conference is, for that matter, whether it can inspire some of those new initiatives or not to meet those challenges is the real question. Now, the session has been mentioned that whether we can move towards SDGs as an agenda for that kind of solutions in that way. I fully agree with that. I make the proposition that SDGs can be a very good framing exercise in order to deal with these challenges in a substantive way, and also at a national level, if not at a granular level, at specific communities who are being left behind. So why the SDG will be a good one to deal with this emerging challenges. To start with, I think this, as you all know, in 2015, when we signed up the SDGs, but 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it is an universal document. It has been signed by all the countries in the world. And from that matter, it has that overall ownership when we want to use that particular framework. The SDG framework is also very convenient because it also provides some means of implementation. So one of the major means of implementation, and I will stop on that issue a bit later, is the regional cooperation, sub-regional cooperation, and also mega-regional cooperation. And Bay of Bengal issue is precisely a mega-regional cooperation construct in certain ways. The other issue which the SDG is so convenient for us and important, because the region we are talking about suffers from poverty, malnutrition, hunger, and there are traditionally left behind people in these countries. So when we talk about that development, and we are talking about development to be defined by the least developed communities or individuals in this group of countries. So the SDGs provide us not only the aggregate development prospect, but also at a disaggregated level, looking at those left behind. And now with the COVID on, we talk about those who have been pushed behind, the new middle class, lower middle class who have been pushed behind. That is another of those new challenges which we are dealing with. So this is how the framework is out there, over there. The issue over here, if you take a much more specific look at the SDGs, and of course the first and foremost challenge, as I mentioned, is of course hunger, poverty, malnutrition. And along with that, we are seeing a looming food insecurity. This is where I think one will have to really concentrate. The second area of concentration is all about, if you go around these countries, and if you look at their future, and if you look at the looming fourth industrial revolution, then we are talking about quality education, we are talking about public health services, we are talking about social protection. This is what we are talking about. But all these things can only happen. I think the third area is that to have employment, gainful employment, particularly the youth population, who are more than 1/3 of the population of this region. And with that employment will come in the issue of infrastructure development, connectivity, which we are all arguing for. Along with that will come innovation and also supply of affordable and renewable energy, the green energy issues. Let me come towards the end, why SDG is the good framing and construct for this dealing with the Bay of Bengal issues. The important part of it is that it also looks at the issue of human rights, rule of law, institutions. And all these countries in this region possibly will be better serviced if we could have improved the rule of law and the human rights issues, and also the role of the state making it more accountable in our respective countries. Last but not the least, as I have mentioned, it talks about partnership. And that brings me over here now to my other concluding part of the discussion. The partnership, what we are talking about here, is usually understood between the North and the South. But SDGs really allows for, or rather promotes, the South-South cooperation issue. So Bay of Bengal, what we are talking about, is essentially the South-South cooperation to be taken at a new height with these middle powers, the regional powers, and also those who have been left behind in the regional, in the overall global context over there. So what are the areas we are talking about if that be the case? I have mentioned some of the SDGs, but let me focus a bit more on specific areas. One particular area at this post-COVID, what we are seeing is essentially we need some regional public goods. I look at Bay of Bengal cooperation for generating the regional public goods, which will complement the generation of the global public goods in terms of peace, security, and stability. So that is out there. So what is the foremost global public goods I look at this moment? I think the obvious answer would be the connectivity. And connectivity is both hard, soft, and frugal. in that way. So we are talking about multimodal transport system. We are talking about internet connectivity, digital connectivity over there. And as an economist, I will fail in my duty if I don't say financial connectivity, trade, investment, and etc. So those connectivity issues are there, very much there. The other issue, which is, of course, is always everybody's in mind, and drawing on the SDGs, is life over on land, but more importantly, life underwater. So the blue economy issue is, of course, is on the frontier in this case. So the Bay of Bengal initiative, along with the connectivity, will definitely address the issue of blue economy and a very untapped area of resources over there. But let me conclude by saying that in the recent past, what we have seen, that beyond this traditional area of generating regional public goods, the area which has come to the fore is that the issue of public health, particularly vaccines. The COVID has shown that this Bay of Bengal region can be both a producer, India in particular, China out there, as producer of vaccines, and also as a good cooperative relationship in receiving these vaccines in a certain ways and their follow-up. This is a totally new area which has opened up, through this misfortune which the world is facing. Let me conclude by saying, Bay of Bengal in area, when we talk about processes, structures, and institutions, is not deprived of those structures, institutions over there. We have the United Nations have it, ESCAP, the Economic Commission for Asia Pacific region. We have BIMSTEC. We have whatever its status is, the Comoros SARC. We do have BCIM, the Bangladesh, China, India, and Myanmar issues, and there are many other. And BIMSTEC is, of course, the one over there. The issue is, how will really one will make a synergy out of this multitude of institutional structure? Shall we go for that or not? But in order to do that, I think the bottom line is there are a number of regional conflictual situations. There are border issues. There are border issues both in terms of land and also maritime border issues. So the trust building will be critical in this area. So the trust building process has to be critical and led by the political process. That is much beyond the technical expertise for people like us in that way. So we look forward to that kind of a blending where the political process will come together with the technical processes done by many of us over here. And I'm pretty sure this conference, with your presence, will contribute towards that. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much. I think you owe a special thanks to finish it within time frame. And you have already set the tone. So
I didn't have much to say.
No, but I think it's important to set the tone for this session. So now I was just thinking that when Dr. Debapriya was talking about one of the key areas, key potential areas of SDG is related to blue economy. So I was thinking I would like to hear from Ms. Van Nguyen about what do you think about the potentials of expanding or fostering regional cooperation, especially when we think the issues related to blue economy and how that can help the countries to the Bay of Bengal region to attain the SDGs. So over to you.
Thank you so much. And first, I would like to say very good morning to all. And when I was asked to step in here, I was really overwhelmed with the panel, the very distinguished panel members. So I'm very honored to be here to share some observations about the topic of today's session. So my name is Van and I'm from Vietnam and I work for the United Nations Development Program. So I came to Bangladesh 3 years ago. I am a person who kind of like been here, done that person. So I travel a lot. So when I look at Bangladesh, I read about Bangladesh as the longest coastal line, beaches. So I was very excited to come and thinking that I would have lots of things to explore and discover. So the next thing I realized that, wow, it's a very, very limited facilities that can capitalize on what the country has. And then that brings me to the point that the previous session, when the former president of Serbia was talking about Bangladesh has a lot of potential, which I fully subscribe to. And I think that in the blue economy, this statement is so holds true. There's so much potential for Bangladesh and for country in the region, or the country in the Bay of Bengal, to capitalize on. So some of you may know that this year marks 10 years the United Nations used the term blue economy. It was first used in 2012 in Rio de Janeiro. That is when the first time people heard about this. And you may also know that the current global blue economy is around 2.5 trillion annually. And if we look at the ocean economy as an example, it is said to reach 3 trillion by 2030. So you see the number is such huge, and the employment related to ocean-based industry could reach to, or said to double, around 40 million jobs by 2030. That's the potential. And thinking about the population, the size of that vision, it says a lot. So, however, we know that the potential still remains as a potential. So what can we do? If we look around, let's look at my own country, Vietnam. Blue economy represents 47% of the GDP, 47, nearly half. How much is Bangladesh in 2015? I don't have the number, updated number, 2015. Bangladesh is 3%. India, 4%. So that is, and that you wonder, that what can we do to really improve and increase? Now, in the, and if you think about, for example, around Mauritius or Seychelles, they have the country is so small. Mauritius, the country is so small, but the tourism is so big, and that is and tourism-based, ocean-based tourism. So it is just, I think I don't have to say it more, to say that how important it is for us, for the region, to really focus on and find solutions, addressing challenges, so that the blue economy can really benefit the people, support the countries in the region to achieve the SDGs. Yeah. So now, if we think, I think that the dialogue today is a very important, milestone, that it starts the process of conversation, of communication, of exchange of ideas, of exploring opportunities for collaboration. Now, you asked me about what exactly blue economy contributes to the achievement of the SDGs. As blue economy falls into the SDG 14, which is life under, all those life under the water, and all those, ocean and related to water. Anything and everything related to water, that is a blue economy. So if we do well with blue economy SDG 14, you will be able to achieve, meaning that you will be able to protect the ocean. You will be able to have people with jobs. Then you leave people out of poverty, SDG 1. You empower the women who have the job, who can take care of the family, who have money to send children to school, SDG 4. Women empowerment, SDG 5, And if we protect the environment, it means that you have to protect all the litter coming from the land base. It is SDG 12, responsible consumption. We don't throw plastic into the ocean. So I just give some example to see that how SDGs are interrelated interconnected. We address one SDG, it doesn't only serve achieving that SDG. It actually serves the whole SDG 17. And I want to conclude, I want to pick up what Dave was mentioning. I really like his intervention because he was always able to look, beyond and at the bigger picture. So the connectivity, yes. The digital connectivity, yes. So if I may add, I would say that when we are supporting the countries in the region to capitalize on the blue economy, we have to take into account that there will be people who are left behind. Therefore, we need to reach those people first. So making sure that the fundamental guiding principle of Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development Goals, to leave no one behind. That's one point. Second is that Bangladesh is so much advanced compared to other in terms of digitization, digital connectivity, but then it also creates, and COVID was really telling us, the digital divide. So what can we do? So that I leave the question for you to answer. I am not here to, but I just want to share with you my perspective and representing UNDP. We, UNDP, together with the United Nations family, very much would like to continue supporting and being with you in this journey. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think blue economy is really an area which is also very much connected to all of the sustainable development goals that we are talking about. Now, Dr. Asif Iqbal, we know that you have worked quite a lot on environmental economics and environmental issues, carbon trade, and all of these issues. So you have vast experience in terms of all of the issues related to sustainable development. So from you, we would like to hear that what particularly you think about combating the climate change challenges that we have, what we can do in terms of through regional cooperation, how we can combat the challenges of climate change.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. And thank you for this question. And as she just mentioned, that every SDG is very interrelated. If you want to address one, you have to address all. And sustainability's main characteristics is it's comprehensive, it's holistic. You can't leave one aspect behind without while you want to address something else. Climate change is a generational challenge that we have been facing. 25 years ago, when Kyoto Protocol was signed, there was people sitting in, and most people were actually in the platform of climate denial at that point. Now it's no longer the case. Nobody really denies about climate change. The impacts are so visible, whether in terms of random weather events, and most importantly, the investors and financial institutions around the world over the last 10 years have been taking climate change very seriously, that every bank is actually looking at, financial institutions, asset management companies are looking at whether climate risk is addressed in their investment. And that's making climate change a lot more important for businesses, and that's creating a new climate for businesses. So climate change is definitely not one of the isolated issues. It touches on every aspect of SDGs, starting from poverty, hunger, education, gender, and all the way to goal 15. And I always say goal 16 and 17 are always about implementation. 16 is mostly around building the institution, and building institution is not just government or governance. It's about involving everybody, citizens, non-government organizations, businesses, corporations, everyone bringing on board and having an institutional framework to address this huge challenge of climate. And this goal 17 is about collaboration. That's why you are here, because the collaboration is so important. Now, Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals are global goals. They're not like MDGs, which is mostly for developing countries, where developed countries would come and help them to achieve development challenges. But Sustainable Development Goals are for everyone. It's universal. So we always have common platform for every country to talk about it. So in South Asia, the climate is a very important issue, and the poverty and the development is a very important issue. And we have lots of social fault lines, a lot of political fault lines in South Asia. Although in terms of stages of development, South Asian countries are more uniform compared to even Southeast Asia. If you look at ASEAN, Myanmar and Singapore are probably in a very different trajectory of the growth and development, but they are cooperating. And they are in the same platform to cooperate and address climate and sustainability, corporate sustainability and ESG issues, where in South Asia, we are not really having that level of cooperation yet because of many social and political fault lines. But we have a common enemy to combat. The common enemy is poverty. The common enemy is inequality. Inequality is a very important indicator of development. If you look at the developed countries, you don't have to look at the data. The Scandinavian countries, European countries, the income distribution is a lot more equitable compared to any underdeveloped country. So you have less inequality, meaning your country is more developed. So inequalities is something which is very important that we need to look at, and that has a lot of implications on the climate change. So I'll not really focus only on the environmental aspect of the climate change because Bangladesh is one of the most climate vulnerable country. We are facing plenty of challenges to the southern part of the country, and it's not just Bangladesh. This whole coastal line is covering India and is going to Myanmar and all over the Maldives, Sri Lanka, all the South Asian, many other South Asian countries are impacted by various aspects of the climate change. And carbon management is definitely one of the most important global issue. It has been growing big, especially in terms of carbon credit, carbon sink, carbon trading. Europe has created a more formal market. Other areas of the world are trying to create this market. Probably in South Asia, we are not ready institutionally to implement what Europe is doing, what Southeast Asia has been trying to do. But what we should focus more on is the poverty development. Urbanization is one of the definitely important factor, which is goal 11. And of course, working conditions of workers, goal 8, the decent work. So there is many other areas which everything is related to one way or the other related to climate change, and we need to look at. Since this session is mostly about regional integration and its implication on sustainable development goals, so I'm just trying to keep my perspective more toward that, and rather than just putting on the environmental aspect. Of course, environmental aspect is very important, but we have recognized in Art Summit in 1992, 5 years after the Brundtland Commission report, which actually laid down the foundation for sustainable development, that sustainable development has to be human-centered. It's not about environment, it's not about economy, it's about the people. It's about the welfare of the people. So we must utilize the economic development and environmental conservation, preservation, and sustainable usage for the human development. So that's where I would like to really emphasize when we talk about sustainable development, we must look at the human welfare and social aspects more carefully, and that's why we need to look after the environmental aspect. We are definitely walking a dangerous path. The global warming has already escalating. We are nowhere near achieving net zero by 2050, although we are trying. We have it in the agenda, countries are trying, but I personally do not think we'll be able to achieve that by 2050, but definitely things are moving. And COVID-19 created a lot of new challenges and also new opportunities over the last 2 years. One of the biggest challenges and the development challenges is created that all over the world, because of the restrictions, it has destroyed many micro nodes of the supply chain. And that created a supply side inflation, which will be very difficult for world to handle at this point. Of course, we have to find a way to face it, but this is not going to go away anywhere. So inflation is, second thing is that energy security is changing. The energy mix is changing globally, and it's mostly moving away from fossil fuel. Also, it's very much related to climate change. It's very important for climate change too, but is Bangladesh ready, or any other countries are really ready for creating a new energy mix to fuel its industrialization process? So this is second biggest sustainability challenge and the climate challenge I'm looking at. And the third one is definitely climate change is having a plenty of other risks for various level of investments we have around the world, because we are living in a very connected world, and our supply chains are distributed, and various nodes of supply chain is being challenged by climate, and we have to be really very vigilant about how it is impacting us. So it's a very complex issue, and there is no conclusion to it, so I'm not trying to conclude anything. It's just a food for thought, and we can definitely continue the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we have been talking about regional cooperation in different ways. So now I would like to go to Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. We know that you have worked quite a lot on South Asia and China policies, and you have worked quite a lot on Belt and Road Initiative as well. So from your experience, what you can share about the potentials and the challenges and the ways to combat the challenges that we have in case of fostering regional integration and to attain the SDGs. So over to you.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, I think I must thank my friend Jilur for this invitation at this wonderful event. Quite impressive gathering and well organized. He has also brought many well-known scholars whom I have met since decades, but not get the opportunity to meet due to COVID. So I'm really, it's an opportunity, it's a privilege. I have not met Jilru, it's his birthday, so I think let me wish him from here on his birthday. Coming back to the topic on integration of South Asia, I think we all know that South Asia is less integrated than it was in 1950s, before India's independence or independence of sub-region. We used to have railway from Nepal to India. We all know that there was railway connectivity from India to present Pakistan or Bangladesh. So with time, when the world was integrating, South Asia was disintegrating. When the European Union was imagining visa-free regime, we are working on hard visa regimes. So that is one. The reasons and the challenges previous speaker has been talking and will be talking. Second is that we all know that there is need for integration. We have realized that, but the implementation part is not as per the realization. So I think that is where we need to work on. Let me come to BBIN. We all know that BBIN has huge potential. Bhutan and Nepal has huge potential in terms of electricity. India and Bangladesh, current Bangladesh, are the largest polluter in the region. Europe is the consumer. So in this situation, I think we can harness huge potential of hydropower that lies between Nepal and Bangladesh. Let me put the case of Nepal. Nepal has the capacity to produce 43,000 megawatt, and till now we have not even harnessed 10%. We are not producing even 4,000 megawatt of electricity. It's less than 3,000. And we all know that India and Bangladesh are the largest consumer. They need clean energy. We have to meet COP targets. So I think this is where the countries can come together, but there's not such initiatives. It's in the process now. In last 5 months, Nepal have sold 8 billion Nepali rupees of electricity to India. We are negotiating and we are trying to sort out with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is interested to invest. They're interested to construct transmission line or even use the Indian grid for that. So I think there's a need for a kind of goodwill, and there's a need for greater push for those kind of projects that is required. I think private sector plays an important role because we know the government is too big and they have complications and they are slow. So if you can bring the private sectors on all these three countries, I think that can play a very important role. Briefly also talking about like the question that was raised, like China. I think China has provided alternative to countries in the region. When India is rising, when the world is changing, the aspiration of a small country like Nepal, Bangladesh or Sri Lanka is changing. Their aspirations are growing. With the rise of India, the dreams of all these countries are increasing. But at times, the traditional partners like India or the others who are in the region are not able to fulfill those aspirations, desires, and need. And then comes China. China comes as an alternative. Yes, there are challenges which we'll be talking about, but China has provided opportunities or alternatives or a tool to negotiate with the traditional partners. Now, let me look at how China has emerged in this region. We all know that when any country emerges as a power, they create a space. United States is in every room of every world. It's like it's everyone's neighbor. It's US is Bangladesh's neighbor, it's Nepal's neighbor, it's everyone's neighbor. China is making itself the world's neighbor. Second, when the traditional partners, when they fail to meet aspirations, or where they have flawed policies, or where there is lack of delivery, China creates a space. When the world was not going to Africa, China moved there. And then every country is going there. When no one was interested in Hambantota, China moved there. India was asked to create Hambantota, but India was not interested. There is a failure. There's a problem with the project. There's a different story. But in China came as an alternative. So that is how the small neighbors are coming as an alternative in the region. And this has made the traditional partners, India in the region, very serious. If you look at Nepal's case, all the pending projects, the project that was delayed by years and decades, there is rapid progress. And the credit goes to China. If China was not there, there would not have been BBB, Build Back Better World, Indo-Pacific economic framework. These are all the product of rising of China. So I think rise of China is an opportunity for the region. And I think we should be not shy to say that. The reason is that who are the greatest partner of China? And the opponents, they are same. US, Europe, Japan, India, Korea, they are the largest trading partner and they have the conflicting relations. They don't enjoy good relations. So there is no sigh in developing relations with China for Bangladesh, for Nepal, for Sri Lanka, because they enjoy better relations than what all those traditional partners like US, Japan, India, or Australia are enjoying. So I think we should leverage that rise of China and benefit for the region. So, and then when I'm talking about aspirations and desire, what are those desires? What does the region desire for? The region desire for connectivity, engagement, economic integration, and that is what we're talking today. So I think China is emerging as an alternative, not only to South Asia, but to Latin America or to Africa, and that is where I briefly want to highlight on. Now, Indo-Pacific, I think, is one of the regions. Now, that is coming as an alternative because the United States and the traditional partner had lost interest in this region. So now, maybe Indo-Pacific framework can be an alternative to BRI. Now, tomorrow, if these new initiatives offer better than BRI, obviously, will not be choosing the worst one. So I think that is where. Finally, on Nepal side, I'd like to end with that we personally feel that Nepal will benefit from being part of Indo-Pacific. The government is silent on that, but I personally feel that Nepal will benefit from Indo-Pacific because, as I said, we also enjoy good relations with United States or the Indo-Pacific region and the countries in the region. Before the birth of PRC or the birth of independent India, Nepal established diplomatic relations with the United States. After Britain, the first in 1816, we established diplomatic relations with the US in 1947. So I think we see it as an opportunity. Second, one can claim that Nepal is a landlocked country. And what is the benefit it comes from? Nepal and India has open border. And when it's open border, our border virtually, in real, it ends between India and Nepal, but virtually it goes to the Indian Ocean. Because due to open border, the security concern that is in India due to maritime sector is also to Nepal. If there's no border between here, I mean, anything that happens on the other side has implication on this side. So this is the situation. So I think Nepal, since we are also connected to the Indian Ocean region through BIMSTEC, there is virtual concerns. So I think in that situation, Nepal should be part of Indo-Pacific and benefit from those initiatives because, as I said, Nepal should benefit from all kind of initiatives, be it BRI, BBI, and BIMSTEC. SARC is dying and we are worried. We want to see the revival of SARC because that is one institution that has made rapid progress, and if the countries in the region can seriously think of the integration issues, the regional issues, and put them into perspective, keeping the certain bilateral issues on the sides, I think we can progress. So I think I'd like to end here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and Dr. Jaiswal. Now I would like to go to our last, but definitely not the least, panelist, Mr. Aizaz Ahmed Chaudhry. He has a vast experience on working in different parts of the world, and we would like to hear from you about your experiences. Especially, we started this session while hearing about the opportunities and challenges, and from you, I was thinking that probably there are, when we are talking about different issues, one issue may be different, but still there are commonalities in one issue is like the institutional challenges, the challenges of implementation of the SDGs. So from you, we would like to hear what you think that how we can combat the challenges and to want to hear about some opportunities as well. Over to you.
Thank you. I must first thank Center for Governance Studies for inviting me to these conversations. And I also want to thank you, Dr. Sayema, for inviting me to share my thoughts. Earlier in the inaugural session, we heard the former president of Serbia speak so eloquently about the uncertainty and unpredictability that has come to define today's changing world. A number of trends that we can see, multiple centers of power have emerged, and some of the major powers are relying more on unilateralism, and multilateralism we can see is on the retreat. We also see a trend that impacts South Asia more than other regions perhaps is a major power competition between the US and China. And now we also see war returning to Europe. The cumulative effect of all that is that the whole world is reeling after the impacts of these monumental changes, especially with regard to energy crisis and commodities crisis, which will eventually lead to food insecurity. Now, how are these global changes impacting South Asia? In my view, it is impacting South Asia more than others. One, a very large segment of world's poor live in South Asia. And second, this is the least integrated region of the world. Yes, SDGs can provide one solid basis for regional integration, but in my view, you need a more comprehensive approach than just the SDGs to integrate your region. I'll identify 5 such elements. One is connectivity. Now, connectivity is happening in certain parts of the world, and Dr. Jaiswal mentioned China's BRI. Pakistan also is benefiting from one of the 6 economic corridors, Pakistan-China economic corridor. So we have a north-south connectivity. But I think in due course, we'll probably need an east-west connectivity too. And perhaps India would be also taking some kind of lead in some initiatives in that direction. The second is building economic stakes of all these countries into a common South Asian identity. I think that has not happened. Just like European Union, ASEAN, and other regions, we haven't really made a conscious effort in building economic and commercial stakes into each other. The third is the social development agenda, and that's where SDGs come in. Eradicating poverty, hunger, education, health for all, justice for all is a good solid case, but I don't think we have done much to, every country is doing a lot on its own, but not together. Institutions, you talked about institutions, SARC is one, but we have seen how SARC has remained ineffective. And the fourth is the climate change. I think I would say that climate change is even greater potent. It's partly part of the SDGs to bring all these countries together, because like Bay of Bengal countries are vulnerable to sea surges. In Pakistan and northern India, I think the Himalayan glaciers, if they melt, we will all be impacted. I think there's a greater scope for all these countries to put their minds together. And finally, on the blue economy, I think we haven't really benefited as a region from the maritime riches that are available. For instance, if Pakistan and India had been able to resolve the Creek issue, we could have defined our maritime boundary and exploited the economic zone. So my sense is that a much bigger, broader agenda is required, SDGs included, if you want to move towards regional integration. And while the world is moving towards regionalism, I think it's about time that South Asia also does so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aizaz. We know that we have heard about lot of challenges, lot of opportunities as well, untapped opportunities. And I'm sure that in the audience, there are people who have lot of questions as well. Due to our time constraint, we will not be able to take lot of questions, but if there are 2 or 3 burning questions, then we can ask. Yeah. And if you kindly just mention your name and your affiliation, and if you have anyone else, anyone particular to answer the question, then please.
My name is Mohammed Shamsir. I'm a theoretical nuclear physicist by profession. I was the founder, Vice Chancellor of Bangladesh Open University and Southeast University, and President of Bangladesh Academy of Science. I would like to make brief remarks very succinctly. This is a very good session. You have a note to this session, in this session, BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, trade, electricity trade. Excellent idea. But I think, I read somewhere in this organization has been very ineffective. I personally think it will continue to be ineffective unless there is some serious brain racking and devising of ways how to make it effective. Let me give you a very precise example. This is a very big idea, the electricity trade. I was chairman of the Bangladesh Society in the early 70s. I led a delegation to Nepal. The Prime Minister said, look, gentlemen, if you are riding in a horse here,
may I
no. I'm
shorter.
explaining the tip. If you don't give me a couple of minutes, then what is the use? How do I give you some inputs which may improve you? Believe you me that I will give you some inputs which will be helpful to you. The Nepalese Prime Minister said that if one of our horsemen is riding, one of his feet is brushing against the mountains, the other is hanging in the air. The meaning is that if the hydropower, if this is such brilliant hydropower, you don't have to displace people like we did in the Kornufuli hydroelectric project. We had problems. Now, if you do that, this is not hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of megawatts can be generated. Where is the problem? The problem is here in the mindset. You are talking of bridges, building bridges. They are physical things. But if you first make your mindset right between these two, all these nations in the Bay of Bengal, then building bridges is just a matter of details. Mental bridges, mental connections, those are more important. Those aren't there. And the intellectual communities of these countries have to be persuaded. Otherwise, the governments cannot do. Take the example of SARC. What has it done? What has it achieved over the years? Except changing or exchanging football teams or musical teams. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. So you have to involve the intellectual and the business communities of these people. We had in Bangladesh such intellectual activities during the 1952 language movement, during the 1969 mass upsurge movement, independence. How can we not involve our intellectuals in finding out a roadway and other people of other countries?
Yes.
So to put pressure on the government. Otherwise, ma'am, it will continue to be ineffective.
I think it's a matter
bridges.
of
Thank
long
you very much.
discussion. So may I just request Dr. Debapriya to just
So
spend
thank you,
1
Chair.
minute.
I think you have raised a very basic point over here, and the mindset issue is very much pertinent in this case. But a person of the real world, I would say it's all about incentive structure to start with. That whether the countries those who are participating in a joint endeavor should feel equally benefited and will have their concern addressed. Take, for example, in BBIN, the automobile agreement which we have been trying to do. And Bangladesh has signed in, India has signed in, Nepal has signed in, but Bhutan did not agree to it. Because Bhutan has its own environmental concerns, as is not ready to also to allow overwhelming tourism in their country. They want to go for high value tourism and etc. So we will have to be respectful about those countries' concerns and have to adjust to that. On the other hand, we have seen the case of, in the transits between Bangladesh and Nepal, Bangladesh and Bhutan going through India. Partly it is because of the infrastructural issues, getting them connected through proper railway linkages, having the logistics at the cross-border changing and putting the scanning machines and other things. But also there are also concerns about security and other issues along with that. But this is a hard process. I think this is a hard process. I would not agree that nothing is happening. I think things are happening, but we wish them to be much more faster. That is what I would say, particularly regarding BBIN. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know there are a lot of questions, but unfortunately, due to time constraint, we have to wrap up the session. Maybe you can ask the question over the lunch break. For the last 1 hour or so, we have heard about a lot of untapped opportunities, challenges, and the bottom message is like SDGs are interlinked. And because SDGs are interlinked, regional cooperation, especially for some of the SDGs, can play a very crucial role. But of course, most important thing may be to have the proper mindset and have a positive mindset to have the untapped opportunities open for us. So thank you so much.